Welcome to the On Point Podcast, a channel dedicated to helping you be the best hunter you can be. On Point is designed to help motivate and inspire you to get more out of yourself and your gear during your next hunt. If you're looking for information that will directly impact your success and help inspire you to go on new adventures, whether you're hunting with a bow or a rifle, On Point is the channel for you. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. David Thomson, the producer of the Arms Room Show podcast, which is a firearms, basic self-defense, first aid podcast where they go over all that stuff. Great group of guys giving a lot of really good information to folks that want it in those areas. Very established podcast. Go check them out. That's the Arms Room Show podcast. Well, he and I go over backcountry medical needs, what you need to have, what you need to know. If you go out in the backcountry, you get hurt, cuts, lacerations, broken legs. He's really knowledgeable in this area, and he's helped save a lot of lives out there with the classes that he gives. And it's really cool to see how often people get back to him and say, hey, I use that information, or hey, I used that class and it saved my life. It's pretty cool. The information that he gives really does make a big impact for people out there that use it. And we go over backcountry medical, and we also go over hunting Arizona. So I'm really interested in both of these areas. I'm really inadequate in the medical stuff, and my gear just, maybe I carry a few Band-Aids and some glue and whatever, but, I need to really up my game on my medical kit stuff, carry that with me in the woods. And then also I'm super interested in hunting in Arizona. Well, David also knows a lot about hunting in Arizona. He lives there himself, and so we go over what kind of out-of-state, for guys that are hunting out-of-state like me, want to go hunt Arizona, what kind of opportunities do we have for over-the-counter and stuff like that. So it made for a great podcast. Really appreciate David taking his time coming on to the show. And if you guys can, be sure to go check out his podcast. Again, that's the Arms Room Show podcast. And go follow him on Instagram at David Thomson, and that's Thomson without a P. So thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. I will see you at the end of the episode. Bye. With the medical stuff going on this year, guys having accidents, broadhead punctures, lacerations. We had a deer actually cut up a guy. You and I were just talking about that. I thought it would be a good idea, and you actually brought the idea to me. Let's do like a first aid medical situation training. What do you need? What do you need to know? Because that's an area that I'm really lacking on. I have like this tiny little bit bigger than a wallet, and has like probably a few Band-Aids in there, maybe a little pack of ibuprofen and a thing of gauze. I don't know. I haven't even. It's not adequate. We'll put it that way. So
we call that a boo-boo kit.
A boo-boo kit, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I have a boo-boo kit, and I don't have an oh shit kit. So I feel like I need to at least up my game. And also I'm dying, because you live in Arizona, I'm dying to pick your brain about the draw. So, but let me give you a chance to introduce yourself and go over your background and stuff.
Well, I am David. I'm from Arizona, and I have a hunting problem. No, but my background is coming from EMS. It was a little bit of what I told you the last decade or so. I've been in EMS, was a paramedic, and then started training. Realized I love teaching people. I love teaching new students. I love teaching new hires, everybody. So I started teaching more. Mm-hmm. When I moved back to Arizona, I fell into this company that I'm with now, Independence Training, and started teaching medicine. We decided to give it a shot. We also do firearms training. So I have a competitive shooting background, fell into that pretty easily. So we do a combination, but in all honesty, we're probably close to a 70-30 split for medical firearms. Not that people don't like shooting stuff, right, but it's the necessity of medicine. So as I've done more and more of it, trying to expand the knowledge of what I have and all our other instructors, we have experiences from military medicine to hospitals to pre-hospital to flight medics to everything. We have a bunch of guys that have a bunch of backgrounds. When we come together, it's not just one side of things, one opinion. It's all of us say, hey, how would that work for you? How would that work for us? And we have probably the bigger one system that we kind of draw from is not only military, but like backcountry rescue is pretty popular.
Really?
So yeah, we teach all that stuff. And I love it. And when I started reaching out to you, I saw that the content was good. I was like, man, not enough people know about it. And it's not some secret language that people can't learn. Like everything I know or everything I've learned, everybody can learn for free. I just had to go take a course so I could work in the field. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So it was, it seemed to be an important thing for me to start reaching out and teaching people it. So
you're in, you say competitive shooting, like 3-gun and stuff, or
3-gun, 2-gun, USPSA, so handgun stuff. Handguns are definitely my forte.
Really?
Yeah. And we do, as far as our company goes, we do everything from handguns to precision long range rifle stuff.
Nice.
So a lot of our guys are really into it. Handgun, just a simple little pew pew. That's what I'm about.
I have a, I don't know if you can see my safe behind me, but I used to be really into long range. And then finally there came a time where it's like bows or rifles. You can't be as good as I want to be at both. So I just, I chose bows, but I've got like 2 or 3 platforms in there that 2 of them haven't even been shot yet. And they're like they're, one's easy 1,000-yard gun. It's like, man. And some of them been in the safe for like 3 years, and I'd just love to do a long range episode one of these days. But do you do the long range stuff to yourself?
Oh no, that's like a foreign language to me.
Is it? That's funny because pistols is my weak area.
Yeah, and that's usually the case. That's why I love it, is because it is. Most people aren't huge fans of pistols, so I'm like, that's what I want to get good at.
Right. Well, you think guys that carry pistols when they bow hunt, you think we'd be more a little more efficient with them. And if I can hit that at 20 yards, or I'm like ecstatic. I'm like, holy crap! I just hit a pipe plate at like 20 yards with a pistol. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but, it's pretty amazing because we teach the self-defense side of things too.
Yeah,
and it's kind of amazing the number of people that carry a firearm yet don't train with that firearm.
Yeah,
it's almost scary thinking about it. But
it is. Well, one thing that I've always wondered is that I seem to be way more accurate with revolvers than I am with slide pistols. I don't get it. And then when I took my concealed course a couple years ago, this lady was there with like a 357 or something like that. And I'm there with my XD9, and she's just kicking my ass. And like, she had to be 50, 60 years old, and just put them in a group like that. And I'm just trying to hit the freaking piece of paper. It's like, just give me my certificate. I need to get out of here. So I don't get it.
And so you just take it. You just start throwing your gun at it. Yeah.
Probably be more lethal that way.
Hey,
I've got a 380, or my wife has a 380 on the nightstand, a Walther PK 380 that we have the rip rounds with. And, you could get into pistols really easily on this conversation because guys carry them out in the woods. I listened to a podcast one time where, what's the best round? What's the actual best cartridge for bears and stuff like that if you're going to be defending yourself? And I think they came up with like a 10 millimeter was one of the better rounds. But
10 millimeter is amazing. Problem is the accessibility of it.
Yeah, I've never shot one.
Yeah, I like stuff, and that's a whole conversation we could have. Hey, we could have a talk about best caliber period forever. Because there's really like if I found the best caliber ever, I would have it already, and I would tell you what it is. It's just not there. There's so many things you could debate, and that's not even the important factor of it. Without getting into the self-defense side of it, but knowing the best thing you could do is knowing what that round can do. So not only looking at like ballistic reports of it, but what does that round do when it impacts soft tissue, not a watermelon. That seems to be the biggest thing is people shoot watermelons. I'm not afraid of a watermelon attack happening anytime soon. So I'm not super concerned, but that's probably the best way.
Those things are
rip rounds. So what we use, and I preach it, is the Federal HST. It's a great self-defense round, and I imagine I haven't had to use it on an animal yet, but I know what it does to human soft tissue. So
really,
I'm pretty sure it would do just fine against an animal.
So
yeah.
So let's start getting into. I guess we'll just start getting into the medical stuff. So my
Okay.
yeah, he called my kid a boo boo kid, and that's really adequately put. It's not much. If I actually had a laceration that I needed to stop bleeding, what I'd probably do, because I don't wear a belt, wear suspenders with my ASAT pants and stuff. My first light, I'm just thinking off the top. If I had something happen, I'd take that and I'd tie that sucker around my leg as tight as I could, and that would be the only thing I had for a tourniquet. Do you carry a tourniquet and stuff? What's your kit even look like?
So I actually pulled this off of my vehicle. I have these on all my vehicles. So It has everything on it, from a light, headlamp, light source, shears, chem light, and then window punch, seatbelt cutter, and then the first thing I can get is a tourniquet. So that I keep in my vehicle. I have a kit for my pack. And it's a lot smaller than that, just because there's only so many things that you need to immediately address. And for the most part, that kind of kit would be in my pack if I was going out for a longer. If I was doing like a backpack hunt where I'm just living out of my pack and that's it, then I'd have a bigger kit. But immediately, I have just a small kit. And that's about it. I actually carry around everywhere I go. I don't have it on me because I'm at home and I didn't grab it before the show. But I have an ankle kit that has all the same stuff that I wear literally everywhere. I go hiking, hunting, what have you, just on a daily basis. Yeah, I have an ankle kit.
What do you mean by an ankle kit?
So it actually wraps. So if you kind of imagine the old school ankle holsters for revolvers, it's that same thing. And it has all the same stuff. It has a tourniquet. It has a bandage. It has quick clot. So like a hemostatic gauze to stop bleeding. It has shears. It has a chest seal. So all this stuff, if it's foreign language to anybody, it's not crazy once I explain it, but it's everything that that I need to take care of right away. And the best part about it is it's TSA approved. So I've flown all over the place with it.
That's really valuable.
Even with the steer. Yeah. I have legitimately tried to get TSA to question what it is, and I can't get them to question. The two things I carry around with me everywhere is a flashlight and my ankle kit. So I always have med supplies, and I always have a light source. There's a little pocket light. But I have tried so many times where they're like, "Oh, put your stuff in the bin." I have put it directly on the belt to get them to go, "What is this?" And they still won't. They don't care.
Really?
And we've gone. I have a couple of our instructors have gone international with it, no issues. Everything. So the biggest thing people are concerned about are the trauma shears. They sell these small ones. Get it. It's a little 5.5-inch trauma shears.
And so they have like
those
a
are TSA
45-degree angle. So they're like regular scissors with rounded edge. It looks like a kindergartner's 45-degree angle scissor, basically.
So trauma shears, you can't cut yourself at all with any of it. And it has this kind of bevel on the end of it. So it actually slides against the skin. You can cut clothes off. You can cut leather boots off. You can cut everything off.
Really?
With these, they cut through everything. The original one, so with these ones, the old pennies, you could actually cut an old penny in half with the way the shears are designed. And then they make Kevlar ones, so they can actually cut through Kevlar, everything. So they have 7.5-inch ones, which are the common ones. Those are assault shears. TSA does not want you to have those. Those are lethal shears, apparently. But the 5.5-inch ones, nope, those are safe shears.
Okay.
But yeah, so I have that ankle kit with me everywhere, so I can always have med supplies with me, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Yeah, what kind of weight are we talking about? Because that is about I don't know, about half the size of a lunch pail, probably. Is about what it looks like.
That one, this one, so it's a vehicle kit. So this one actually has a Velcro backing. It sits on the back of my passenger seat. So
you won't pack that out in the woods with you?
I would, but I have a separate one that's more of a small duffel size, so it packs a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But it's the same contents. But this one, before getting into why it's on the back of my headrest, it's honestly, I would say no more than 3 pounds.
Okay.
So it looks bulkier than it is just because there's a bunch of stuff inside. But this is for vehicles. So I have it in my hunting rig. I have it in my commuting vehicle. I have it in my wife's vehicle. It's all in the same place, same contents, everything. And that's kind of the crucial part too, that a lot of people don't consider is if you happen to have this kind of stuff, the number one question I'll ask people is, okay, where do you keep it? Like, oh, I'll keep it in my trunk, or I'll keep it in my pack while driving, or whatever. I'm sure some of the back roads we go on aren't necessarily the most stable back roads.
Right.
So if you happen to roll a vehicle, your vehicle becomes a yard sale. If it's not attached to something, it's going somewhere, and God knows where. So having it attached to a headrest is for that specific reason. Is if I need to, if I'm laying upside down, I can reach over, pull it off, and access what I need.
Right. So I do safety for work, and pretty much every work vehicle is supposed to have a med kit with them. And a lot of them, they're required to have a bloodborne pathogens kit.
Yeah.
Do you carry that in the woods? Bloodborne pathogens, would you mind going over that real quick for people that may not know?
So bloodborne pathogens is really, it's almost self-explanatory. So the diseases that are found in the blood. And normally the equipment you care for is like face masks, gloves, eye shields, whatever, to prevent you from absorbing any diseases that might be in the blood, like hepatitis C, Hep B, HIV, that kind of stuff. So that you see it a lot on the commercial end because it's an OSHA ANSI requirement. So basically big corporations, safety corporations say this is what you have to have. So out in the woods, I'm not necessarily concerned about it. But the only thing I do have on me is gloves, in multiple gloves for two reasons. One, because I plan to clean an animal at some point.
Right.
And I like having gloves for that. I'm kind of like not necessarily a germaphobe, but I'm not a fan of getting blood all over me. I don't know how many times I've done it, but still I don't like it. And the other thing is if I need to start treating anything for medical, I have gloves. So then I'm not worried about it.
Well, my thing is
I have eye protection because I'll have my sunglasses or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my thing with the bloodborne pathogens thing, and that's why I ask, is because, if I run into, Joe Blow out in the woods and he has a broken leg and, it's a compound fracture, it's bleeding or whatever. I don't know if that guy's clean, I don't want to, that stuff does go through my mind before I would even.
Yeah. And so that's where I would have stuff like gloves. That's the biggest reason why I have gloves, is because I don't know what that person's going to have. If I know I'm going out with my friend's family, I know what they have. I'm not concerned. If my wife got hurt, I'm not really concerned about getting her blood on me. But yeah, I carry around gloves in each of my kits, and then I will put like my sunglasses on for eye protection if I need to. But that's about the extent. You could go more if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. Really, it's not too bad.
One thing that I know when I was growing up was, you ever heard of like the buck fever, like the actual buck fever when you're gutting a deer? You ever hear of that?
Yeah.
And that, to me, I grew up thinking every time I'd gut a deer, I'm like, oh God, I hope I don't end up with gut fever. Like it was contagious. I didn't know, it's that's basically just the deer's blood mixing with your blood, isn't it? And then you getting sick or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought there was like an actual buck fever that you'd get, like cat scratch fever kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so I've never worn gloves, but I could see myself.
Blood in your body.
Yeah. I mean, I could see myself getting some of my buddies use those gloves, the field dressing gloves, but I wouldn't, I've never had that problem, but it would be nice to have because chances are pretty slim. But again, I mean, it is a chance if you aren't using gloves when you process your animal. So, especially I haven't cut myself in
I just use
8 or 10 animals. I mean, I haven't cut I should knock on wood. I haven't cut myself in so many animals that I processed. Next one, I know I'm just going to slice myself now, but, yeah. So you carry a tourniquet, you've got gauze, and what was that blood clotting stuff that you're talking about there? And is that stuff that a regular Joe Schmo like me could go out and buy?
Oh yeah. So all this stuff, if I can remember, or if you remind me, I'll send you links to the places you can get it. But That stuff is called hemostatics. So it basically, it helps clot blood faster. Not necessarily better, but it helps it clot faster. So the idea is, to give you a reference point, if you were to have a cut and it was an arterial bleed or even just regular bleed, you'd have to maintain the pressure for clotting, for it to clot for about 10 minutes is usually what you're looking at.
Really?
And then that's when it's going to have enough build up to actually stop and form a clot. The hemostatics bump that time, take that time down to about 3 minutes at most. You have about a minute to 3 minutes of holding time. So it just clots it faster. And there's a couple that we recommend. Normally it's Celox is one, and then Quick Clot is the other one. Most people are pretty familiar with Quick Clot.
Okay.
It's that old, you ever seen old war movies where they dump the granule like powder? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't use that stuff. That stuff is awful.
Oh, really? Is it like
it actually has like
it just doesn't work?
Energy. Yeah. No, it actually burns. It causes 3rd-degree burns inside the wounds. It can cause some serious damage. So they got rid of it. The stuff I have is actually, it's gauze, but it's impregnated with that hemostatic. So it's just gauze with the hemostatic.
So question for you. So if I have a laceration and say it's a good one or a good puncture, I'm bleeding like a stuck pig.
Yeah.
Just from my very shallow knowledge, I would put, say a gauze, I'd have lots of pressure on there, and then I'd raise the leg. What would be the protocol? Say if I, did you see the one where the Dave Brinker accident this year? Did you happen to see that?
I don't think so. No.
He had like a pretty good puncture in the side of his shin, and it barely missed an artery somewhere down there, and it was bleeding, and that's basically what they did. It worked out pretty well, but that's just one where I could definitely see punctures and lacerations when it comes to bow hunters. I feel like those would probably be your most likely things, unless you have a slip, trip, or a fall and you break something.
Yeah.
So what would be your treatment for just a standard, something like a standard bleed or puncture or laceration? What would be your go-to process?
So the first thing you'd have to know is if it's an arterial bleed or a venous bleed. So little anatomy lesson. Arterial bleed is under pressure. It's blood pumping away from your heart. Venous bleed is veins. It's bringing it back to your heart. So it's all about the oxygenation, that whole system. But your heart's pumping out. If you have an arterial bleed, you're going to see it spurting, squirting. That's when you see the dramatic, spurts of blood with every pulse. Or we also say pooling, soaking. If it's under longer clothes, like the sleeves, it's just pooling and soaking. So that's arterial bleed. If it's just kind of oozing out, it's not that big a deal. That's a venous bleed. Arterial bleeds are the big issue. You could use gauze, and that's if you had to pack a wound. So if it's a wound you couldn't use a tourniquet on. The best way you could think about it is think of your arteries like a garden hose. You have that thing on full blast, and if you had to turn off that garden hose without using the nozzle, how would you turn it off?
You'd kink it.
Yeah, so you go up the line, you kink it. So that's what a tourniquet does. I'm bleeding here. I go up the line, I kink it with a tourniquet. If I can't kink it, so if I'm up here in my armpit or my neck area, I can't put a tourniquet on it. How could you if I took that hose and I put my hand directly on it, what would happen with the water?
Kind of just go everywhere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just sprays.
So, sides.
Yeah. So that's what direct pressure does. So if you imagine you had something squirting, and you just put direct pressure on it, you're not stopping it. You're just diverting where it's going. So you actually have to take your finger, figure out where that artery is, and start packing gauze into that wound to make direct contact with it. So essentially you're creating a cork for your arteries.
So how long can a guy how long can a guy make it on one of those types of injuries? Say if he does nick an artery, to me, I'd be screwed, oh my God, just let me bleed out here.
Well, this is it. I'm going to die where I love to be. So,
yeah.
So a tourniquet, if you put a tourniquet on, you have 6 to 8 hours until you actually start having limb loss or lost tissue or dead tissue. So that used to be an old wives' tale where they'd say, no, if you throw a tourniquet on there, they're going to lose a limb. And it's just kind of funny if you think about it. So the whole reason you're putting a tourniquet on is because they're going to bleed to death.
Mhm.
But you're not going to put a tourniquet on because they're going to lose a limb. Like
Right.
that logic doesn't weigh out to me. But yeah, so 6 to 8 hours with a tourniquet. Essentially, with the wound packing, you could last a while. You get into longevity of care. So if you were, let's say, half a day's hike from your vehicle,
Mhm.
you just have to learn how to redress a wound, and that's not very hard. You could last days if you knew how to dress wounds, and it really isn't hard. You just have to know what you're looking for, and is it bleeding through, knowing what general infection looks like, smells like, all that kind of stuff. You can learn how to manage it, and redressing it is literally just putting a new one on, and it's more complex and a little bit than that. And one thing I can't stress enough is even this, people listening to this, I might give a couple tips on medical stuff, but I can't stress enough, like, get the training if you can. There's a foundation or a organization called bleedingcontrol.org. So it's a national organization called Stop the Bleed, or program called Stop the Bleed. And you can find these programs everywhere. And they're free for the most part, unless people throw them into their own stuff. And they go over how to use a tourniquet, how to wound pack, how to do all that stuff. And it's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Really?
But yeah, you go to bleedingcontrol.org and you can usually find stuff that's around you. Without getting too sales pitchy, we do travel all over the nation to teach. So just saying.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I've got no problem you giving yourself a shout out. What company and how do they get a hold of you real quick?
So the company's Independence Training. It's, if you go to independencetraining.com or trainingaz.com, whatever, it goes to the same website. But if you have questions about it, you can email us at info@trainingaz.com.
Okay. Well, as a guy that has provided all this training, and a lot of it has been to hunters and stuff, what are some of the most common things that you find out there that would be good for the listeners to know?
I think the easiest thing that I've learned to get people to understand the importance of medicine, because a lot of people go, well, I'm safe, like that won't happen to me. It's a little bit easier with hunters, because most hunters are in that mindset of, the reason you bring extra gas or extra water or extra whatever is because you go, just in case. Like, I'm smart with my stuff, but just in case. So it's usually easier to teach hunters and outdoors people why it's important. It's just the understanding. But learn how to use this stuff and use the right stuff. Like, you wouldn't use, all right, how about this? Yeah. So could you, if you had to, do you think you could kill a deer with a rock? Do you think you could figure out how to kill it?
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. But would it be easier if you had your bow or a rifle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So why not? Why would you skimp and say, well, if I had to, I'll make a whatever work for a tourniquet, or I'll make this work for wound packing, when you can use the actual piece of equipment that was designed to do that.
Right.
And as far as, you can do stuff like an ace bandage for a tourniquet. My favorite is actually a belt. So that's a huge thing. Most people think that belts will work. They won't. I promise. They will not. And I know somebody out there is going to be like, oh, well, so-and-so that I knew of somebody, they did it once and it worked. And it's cool. It's an anecdotal experience. And, I'm willing to listen. Prove me wrong kind of thing. But really was that truly an arterial bleed? Was it a small nick or what? And so it turns into an anecdotal experience. So why base it off of that one instance when, for example, this tourniquet, it's called a cat tourniquet, has thousands upon thousands of studies proving that it stops and it works.
A cat tourniquet?
Yeah, a cat tourniquet. Combat application tourniquet.
Oh, what?
So, sorry for the noise. The combat application tourniquet.
Okay, yeah, that's the one with the thing that you twist.
Yep. Well, they all have, it's called a windlass. So they should have this guy.
Okay.
So that stick. So the old, I don't know if you're a Boy Scout or whatever, but they used to do a stick and a rag or a cravat or a bandana. So it's that kind of mentality. The issue we found with bandanas is they don't compress. So that's the whole idea, is you're trying to compress your muscles to your bone because your arteries run all the way down. So you're trying to compress your muscles to the bone to stop the artery from pumping. So you need something that compresses more than what you can. So I get this thing as tight as I can, and then I twist it, and it gets it even tighter.
Okay. How tight do you want those things? Is it possible to over tighten?
It would be really difficult to over tighten it. So putting one of these on, for example, you put on initial tightness is crucial. On average, it takes 4 to 6 turns to get it to stop. And most of that, the average is based off of people not getting it tight enough. If you get it on tight enough, I guarantee if you manage to get a hold of one of these and you practice after even one twist, you're going to go, yeah, this doesn't feel great at all. Right. That's probably one of the bigger things that I try to remind our students is fixing traumatic injuries is going to cause pain. It is, unfortunately. In order to fix the pain, you have to cause pain. Because you imagine packing a wound, that's not going to feel great. Putting a tourniquet on, it doesn't feel great.
Right.
But it's going to save a life, basically.
That's really interesting. I want to go over another thing that I've heard is the zip stitches. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
Do you carry stuff for suturing and for stitching?
I have a suture kit. So for my campsite kit or my vehicle, I have sutures. But for in my pack, I have skin staplers. It's just way easier.
I've never even heard of that. Is it basically what it says? It's like a device that staples your skin together?
Yeah. So imagine just the big high-end staplers, not like your office stapler, but the bigger stapler. All it is it has these staples and it hooks the skin. So you bring the skin together and you just staple it up, and it keeps the wound closed. So
well, you're right. You're causing pain to save pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you always have to cause pain.
Yeah. So we've got these ones that we use for targets when we go shooting. They're silver and it's got a handle, and you basically squeeze it together and it shoots a staple out. That's basically kind of what you're talking about there. I mean, it's fairly heavy. I would not want to shoot myself with one of those.
The medical ones are not. Well, yeah, those are definitely way more intense. They're not the same level. But it looks roughly like the same thing. But it's definitely not. It's not you're not rubbing or shooting one of those things into you.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to figure out the most painless way. The zip stitch probably looks the least painless way. I know that's kind of chicken shit, but I mean, staples, I could do it. Obviously, if you're in that situation, you're going to do it, or else, you're probably going to die. But when would you want to use a suture kit or a stitch scenario? Could you do it for a puncture? Would you do it for a laceration? And when would you not want to do it? Because I feel like if you don't stop the bleeding, but you suture it up, are you suturing? Is it just going to keep bleeding on the inside there? I know maybe that sounds stupid.
Oh, but, yeah. So if you don't, bleeding control is number one. You can die in as little as 1 minute to as long as 5 minutes from an arterial bleed. It happens fast. And meanwhile, you're losing blood, you're losing cognitive ability. It sucks. So having a tool that I can put this thing on in 15 seconds rather than trying to fight it, that's why that's important. But bleeding control is super important. So you have to have that under control. After I have all the bleeding control done, that's when I start addressing the wound. So I go and I suture it if I need to, or I start bandaging it, or I do whatever I need. But that's only after I have bleeding under control. I wouldn't suture it just to try to help it stop. Because like you said, it's just going to keep
bleeding on interiorly or whatever. Yeah. So let's pretend I have, say, a puncture in my abdomen or something like that, or a laceration in my abdomen. I fall on my broadhead or something. Mm-hmm. How would you take care of that? I mean, you apply pressure, but then you can't tourniquet your belly. I mean, I don't know what you would do there. What would be your process?
Right. So they make dressings for your abdomen because the biggest thing you're concerned about when you get a laceration or puncture in your abdomen is the internals falling out. That's really the biggest issue. If you see some of your insides coming out, don't start shoving them back in. Please don't do that.
It reminds me of Tropic Thunder where that kid's like, I can put it back.
You want to wrap it. Yeah. So, you want to dress the wound. There's different ways. Get a bag. You want to keep it moist. The abdomen is definitely not as bad. If you just had a puncture, and that's it. If you fell on your bra head and for whatever reason you felt inclined to rip it out right away, then just make sure there's nothing there and then just bandage it. So abdomen's not that big a deal. All your major bleeds are going to be in your arms, your neck, your armpits, your groin. So arms, legs, neck pit. Wow, that's a new word. Neck and groin. And then the other concern is the chest. So not necessarily abdomen, but the chest, because that's when you start getting into airway issues. So number one. The number one leading cause of preventable death, so stuff that people die from that we could stop, is bleeding. Airway compromise or tension pneumothorax is number two. So you get a puncture in the chest, it pierces the lining in there, air pressure starts equalizing, which crushes along, which basically makes you stop breathing after a while, starts messing with everything. So if you had a puncture in the chest, you literally, so the chest seal is where that comes into play, and it's literally a sticker. So if you've ever put a sticker on in your life, you can put a chest seal on. You need a clean, dry surface, and then you put it on there, and that's literally all it is.
Really?
But if you needed to, if you had a puncture and you didn't have a chest seal, you take, I don't know if you take, do you take any like protein bars or any snack items with you when you're out?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll like a payday or something like that.
So you'd want to use that kind of plastic because it's designed to keep air out. So use like a payday wrapper, and you'd want to put that over top and then duct tape all sides of it. And that keeps the air from going in. Downside to that is duct tape doesn't stick to skin super well. So you're going to have to keep dressing it over and over and over.
Really?
While the chest seal is a gel adhesive that's designed to kind of go around dirt and grime and whatever and actually stick to the skin. But it's not to say that you couldn't get it done with just a regular food wrapper or whatever. So
that's really interesting. So, I mean, what about punctures that go all the way through? I've always heard that, say, if you get something that goes maybe like through you, that's now a part of your body until you get back to the emergency facility or whatever. What's your, so let's pretend I have something that I'm not, it's a puncture, but it's deep enough to where it's now a part of me. What would be and that's pretty extreme, I know, but what would be the procedure for that? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that's 100%. Yeah, don't remove anything that has been stabbed inside of you ever. Just don't. I say ever. The only time I would remove stuff is if it was keeping me from rendering aid. So if I had a puncture straight in the middle of the chest and I had to do CPR, it's kind of like 6 to 1, half dozen the other type thing. But never remove it. You're going to want to stabilize it and make sure it doesn't wiggle around. That's just for your own comfort, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't remove it, because what they're concerned about is that might be keeping stuff from getting worse. You could have nicked an artery, but say you fell and it was your arrow, everything went through, and you're stuck completely with your arrow. The broad head could have nicked an artery, and then now the arrow's resting against that, and it's keeping you from bleeding out internally. So if you go to pull that out or do whatever, you could cause more damage, or you could cause it to unblock and start bleeding out. So you just stabilize it and keep it in until you get to the emergency.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that's what I've always heard.
Absolutely accurate.
Yeah. I mean, there's a story I read, and this is years ago. I don't know how I even remember it, but this guy was horseback riding. He was a bow hunter. His quiver was, is the internet still working there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. He had his quiver on his mounted onto his horse with him, and his horse bucked and arrows went everywhere. He went off the horse, ended up landing. I think he had like 3 arrows go through him, and he's sitting there thinking, oh crap. And I don't remember how it ended. He lived, but these things can happen out there, even though they sound extreme. These are things that, I was hunting just last weekend out in Idaho, and we're about a mile from the truck, but it's pretty rugged terrain where we were at. And I absolutely just hammered my knee. It was like 4 inches of snow, and the rocks weren't really showing. Well, I stepped on this, we're talking really steep slope, stepped on this rock, and then basically my other
Yeah.
foot didn't catch, and my just below the kneecap landed on that rock, and I'm thinking, oh, not this far back here, So and I've had that happen a couple times, where one time I was about 4 to 5 miles in, and I smacked my shin, and I I said Mitch, and then he turns around. I'm like, I'm not sure how bad this is here, because it was pretty bad, and it turned out after 10 minutes, I was pretty good to go, and we kept hunting, but I was scared because crap, how bad is this? Because it dropped me. I was like, holy crap! It just has that. That's, I don't know how to describe it, but you get these sensations where you almost black out.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of one of those things. It was like, oh, how bad is this? Sit down before you pass out. And 10 minutes later, I was good to go. But these things it's really easy to mess up out there. You hunt these shifty rocks, you hunt these steep terrains. I roll my ankles like a freaking. Every time I go out, it seems like I roll my ankle. So I mean, it's just there's got to be a little bit more knowledge, especially on my end, and out of respect for the guys that I hunt with, I would want to make sure that I'm able to take care of them, So I guess what I'm saying is slips, trips, and falls. What would be some things that a guy would need for those? Because I don't carry any braces. I don't carry any of that stuff.
Ace wrap.
An ace wrap, and that's just basically a really big bandage, right? A piece of fabric.
Mm-hmm. It's like an elastic band rolled up, and you use it for sprains and strains. So if you roll your ankle, you can wrap it up, and it just gives that compression, so it gives you more stability. If you roll your ankle and it's bad, you give that stability, so now it's firmer, and you're not going to roll it again or just hurt it even more. That bad knee, you'd be able to wrap it up. But yeah, an ace wrap, 100%.
Well, I know some guys are using these. God, what are they called? They're like this little basically emergency device where they hit a button if something happens. Do you have any experience or any ideas with those?
So there's two that I like. The one I'm more familiar with is the Spot GPS.
That's the one I was talking about, yeah. And
then there's another one that's called InReach. And those are the two that we preach. I just have two guys that use them. I myself don't have one right now. That is a bad thing on my end. But I'm usually with somebody who has one. So the InReach and the Spot they're GPS trackers. They're emergency response stuff. The InReach it's a handheld GPS and uses Garmin satellites now. It used to be owned by Delorme, and then Garmin bought them out. So now it's run by Garmin, and unfortunately that means the prices went up and everything. But so you get it, and it's a subscription type thing or type service. So you get the Spot, and you buy it. It's the cheaper device. Has 4 buttons on it. Has on and off button. Has an OK button. It has a help button and then a 911 button. So you hit OK, and I basically send a pre-made message that you set up on your profile to my wife or to whoever saying, "Hey, I'm okay. I'm at camp. I'm wherever." And it lets them know that everything's good. And then you have help, and you can pre-make the message that says, "Hey, Jeep is stuck, whatever." I just send help, and it sends a GPS location to where you're at. And then 911 sends it out to the nearest rescue service for I think an extra $7 a month, or actually no, it's $7 a year, I believe. You get the search and rescue insurance or something like that for a Spot. So it's kind of worth it, but it's an annual deal. So a Spot, if you're out hunting, for you, for example, if you're going out all the time in far back country, Spot makes sense because it's an annual membership. So you pay, I think it's $190 for the year, and then you're set. And that's, you don't have to think about it. It's just a little box, has a couple buttons, you're good to go.
How much is the actual device itself?
It's like $200.
Okay.
So it's the cheaper of the two. The InReach is around $400, and then it's a monthly subscription. So you just pay for whenever you're going to use it. If you're going, hey, I'm going on a couple hunts next month, I'm going this time, you just pay for it then. The other benefit to the InReach is you can also do customized messaging. So it connects to your phone. You can actually send a text over satellite with your phone. So you can literally say, I'm stuck. I need somebody to come get me. to I'm not hurt, but I need help or whatever. My personal opinion is that's just more batteries to kind of keep track of. But yeah, no, those devices, they're awesome. I've heard personal stories of people who they weren't in grave danger, but because they were stuck, they would have been in bad danger, or they would have been in pretty bad situation if they didn't have the spot. And because they had that, they were able to get help. It's a good device to have.
So do you guys have a lot of backcountry there in Arizona, or what's your guys' hunts look like there?
I wouldn't call it backcountry compared to like Idaho and Oregon, and it's different. Our northern side, it can definitely be a lot more backcountry. Down here, it's the desert landscaping, a lot of mountains, a lot of flats, but it's not the like overgrown pines and forest where you got 20 yards of view for anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking, I climb up on a mountain, I can see for hundreds and hundreds of yards. I have a huge view. So down here, at least up north where you start getting to the Ponderosa Pines, it definitely gets heavier, but even then you still get enough clear breaks that you can start seeing things pretty easy.
Really?
Yeah. It's not too bad.
Well, I see a rattlesnake there. It looks like a rattlesnake skin there behind you. I hate snakes, man. I planned my whole trip to Africa around snakes, like the best time of year not to see a snake. So obviously you guys have rattlesnakes over there and stuff. I mean, we have them here in Oregon too, and in some places they're really common. Others there aren't. I've only probably seen a dozen in my whole life, but probably less than a dozen my whole life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll see a dozen in like a season. So.
Seriously.
They're all over the place. Yeah. So usually you'll see them. Those are, I call them dove snakes because that's when they come out, is during dove season. Because you're romping around, it's getting a little bit cooler, and that's when they're active, is just during dove season.
What would be the process for a snake bite? You can't suck out the venom like city slickers, right?
No, don't do that. Honestly, just make sure the person's calm. If it's you, make sure you're calm, and then get to the hospital. The chances of you dying from a rattlesnake bite are pretty slim. You have a better chance of dying from a shark attack, probably.
Really?
I don't know
well,
the
if you get
exact
bit,
numbers.
say like on the arm, how long until you start losing like flesh and like body parts?
Long time.
Oh, really?
Like a long time, yeah. So you have, well, and also depends on what you got bit by, but you have most rattlesnakes are like a hemotoxin type rattlesnakes, and then you get the Mojaves, which have neurotoxin and hemotoxin. So hemo is blood, neuro is neurological, all that stuff. So it starts messing with your whole mind as well as your blood. But the hemotoxin, it'll start messing with the coagulation of your blood, but it's really, you'll be fine. It'll suck, it'll hurt, and then it'll swell, and that's really what's going to hurt even more, is where it's swelling. You just keep calm, you'll survive it. Because you think about what their venom, when they bite, their venom's designed to take down small mammals. That's about it. Even a dog that gets bit, there's a chance it'll survive it. It's not a big deal. And even if they do manage to hit you with their venom, a lot of times they dry bite because it's just out of fear. You're hiking up, you put your hand on a rock and it happened to be there. You scared it scared you, and out of defense, it just snaps at you, and it's a dry bite. Most of the time, they don't even inject. So
I didn't know that. I've always heard that the little ones are more dangerous.
Yeah. The babies are definitely dangerous because they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they're
little bastards.
Yeah, they're awful.
I hate snakes, man. I seriously, I think I have a phobia, but it's bad enough to where I just like. But when anacondas came out, dude, like I couldn't even sleep. Not just looking at the title of the cover, but anyway, so let's go over some hunts in Arizona, because I want to start expanding my adventures that I go on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You guys have some really, really good mule deer and elk.
Oh yeah.
You guys have the Arizona Strip there, right?
Yeah. Arizona Strip.
That's supposed to be a hot spot.
That is prime.
Yeah. So what's an opportunity to look like for a guy that's out of state like me? How's the draw system work? What are the kind of costs that are associated with Arizona?
So if as an out of state entering the draw system, it kind of sucks. I think I looked at the numbers a while ago, and only 10% of it was like 10% of tags or something like that go to out of state for each unit and go
Really?
to out of state people. Yeah.
I think Idaho's the same way.
Yeah. So it's something already low. And then you look at like the strip, for example. So it's 2 different units. You look at the strip and I think your chance of getting drawn period is less than 1%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it turns into a numbers game. It's not only seasonal when you want to go out, but that's just prime. That's where the giant mule deer are. So everybody wants to put in for there.
Right.
So you have only so many tags available, and then you have hundreds of thousands of hunters putting in. So yeah, it's somewhere around less than 1%. I think it's like 0.4% chance of getting drawn.
Do you guys have a preference point system, or what kind of draw system do you guys have?
So we call we get bonus points. So it's kind of like the preference point. We have, so you put in, if you don't get drawn, you get to choose. You have 5 hunts to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you have 2 hunts. I've never met anybody that's gotten like their 3rd, 4th, 5th choice ever. So you have those. You get put in. If you don't get drawn, then you get a bonus point. And then the way the draw works, I'm pretty sure it's like a lot of other draw systems, but you get a randomized number that's generated. And then that's how the tags are drawn, is the lowest numbers are the ones that get the tags. So the more bonus points you have, the more random numbers you get generated. So if you had 5 bonus points and you were putting in, then you get your randomized number, and then you get 5 extra randomized numbers. Yeah.
It's like having more tickets in the drawing kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like buying extra tickets, but you also only get the bonus points per season. So that's every year. So like bighorn sheep, for example, that's literally, people consider that in buffalo like once in a lifetime hunt, because I've known guys that have 25 bonus points, and that's on the low end of them maybe getting drawn. So they'll wait 25, 30 years or something like that before they even get drawn into the unit. I think the earliest I ever heard was a guy that had 22 bonus points that he was applying to it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oregon's a little bit different for our bighorn sheep. There's no points. It's a lottery every year.
Yeah.
And there's kids every year that draw it when they're 12 and 14.
Yeah. So they do, because they do the bonus point. The idea is it's kind of like a loyalty system. They're trying to make it so that everybody gets a chance. Sometimes the bonus points, I kind of laugh. I'm like, really? But the idea is, if I put in for the strip for multiple years, because you don't necessarily have to use your points towards a hunt. You could apply normally and not use your points.
Really?
So if you went in and you were like accruing, like, I don't want to use my points. But then if you go, I have this unit that I know there aren't many people sitting on 20 bonus points for whatever reason, you use that, you basically have a way higher chance of getting drawn.
So would that be basically like a general season then?
Yeah. So they have the general season, because even how they do it, they do 3 phases in the draw. So the first one is called the bonus pass. So they actually go through, and that's where all the bonus points they'll go, okay, who has this number? And then they start actually taking into account the amount of bonus points that you have. So you actually could get drawn if you have 22 bonus points and nobody else has that, then they basically look at your first choice, second choice, whatever. So yeah, that'd be general season. The way for somebody like you to come hunting down here is to get an out-of-state temporary tag. So it's just like anywhere else. You get the 3-day. Here it's a day by day. So you pay, I think out-of-state's $20 per day.
That's not bad.
No, and then you get a over-the-counter tag. That is the way to go, because the over-the-counter tags are archery only.
Really?
Yeah, and people don't like archery. Well, I take that back. Archery is getting a little bigger here, but still people love rifle hunting. There's a lot of general season archery hunts, especially elk hunts. I know people like middle of the rut, and you could easily get drawn every year. I've known guys that have put in 7 years straight, and they've gotten drawn in that same unit. And it's a metro unit, so it's close to town, and it's not bad. And every year they get drawn bull elk.
And good chances of killing a bull too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely turns into, for example, my in-laws live in the middle of a metro unit, and it's fun. You'll go out, you can bugle, and literally you're picking which bugle sounds better at that point. that one sounds more aggressive. I'm going to go that way, and it's insane. I probably have. I'm not even going to say never. That's pretty definitive. But you usually hear people that tag out pretty easily on decent sized bulls.
You're kidding me.
Oh yeah,
that's so opposite of Oregon.
Yeah, it's
here.
And then you get into the bigger units, like you get into the kaibab or the strip, or oh my gosh, you start getting into monsters.
Right.
They're crazy. But yeah, definitely up north, the strip. People want that, and that's the stuff. I mean, I apply for it if I want to, and then you start playing the weighing your options type game, because you're only allowed one antler deer per year. So if you were going for mule deer, you can get over the counter tag. So in January, for example, I'm going to get an over the counter deer tag while I'm javelina hunting. I figured I might as well try to find a deer too. But if I get it then, I can't get drawn for deer later that year. So late 2019, I can't get drawn.
Really?
But I could apply for a bonus point if I want, or I just keep doing it. So really the kind of way is you buy it and it lasts all year long. You can buy your tag, wait until you go to draw. If you don't get drawn, then go hunt late season. And then you basically have chances to hunt if you want to. And then spring stuff, like spring javelina, bear, turkey, they're pretty easy to get drawn for. Most people don't like hunting javelina. I don't know why. They're fun.
Yeah, those, and I heard they're good eating too. Is that?
It depends. A lot of people actually don't like the taste. The problem is there's scent glands. They get it all because they're always rubbing on each other. They get it all over their hair. So when people are cleaning them, they'll be grabbing the hide and they're pulling it down, and then they'll handle the meat and all that stuff. It just ruins the flavor. But I mean, it tastes like pork. It really isn't that bad.
So you said you have first season there, and that's the bonus pass season.
Well, that's so you have that's just how the phases of the draw happen.
Oh, I see.
You have general season, general fall hunts, and then you have every season like that you want. So it'll be like pre-rut, rut, velvet, however you want. You can just go after it. But then it's also dependent on stuff. So during velvet, you're super limited on rifle. There are definitely more tags for bow. It just depends on what you want. You can go everything from, we have a ham hunt, which it's a muzzleloader, it's handgun archery muzzleloader. So it's just the trifecta. So that's what I'm doing for javelina, because I want to hunt a javelina with a handgun. That would be fun.
Yeah. So for over-the-counter opportunities, a guy like me can come over there. What time of year would I go over there for an over-the-counter, say, elk or mule deer?
So it depends on when you want to get it. If you want to get I was listening to one of your other podcasts, the whole a velvet mule deer. Yeah. If you want to get a velvet mule deer, you can do it then. So it's basically all during the same seasons. So you have you have pre-rut or your velvet, which is around August. Each of them are about a month long is how long your season is.
Really?
So you have like August, and then you have pre-rut, and then you have which is November timeframe, and then rut, which is like December 11th through 31st, and then like your post-rut, which is like all of January.
You guys are a little bit later than us.
Yeah.
Because our stuff's right now. It's full swing. It's been going on for almost a month.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit later. I think a lot of it's is with weather. It's starting to get down to where it's cooler here. But yeah, that's pretty typical with us. And it's like anything else. We generalize. I can't say exactly when the rut's going to happen.
Right. Are your elk the same way too? Do they rut late too, or?
Yeah. They generally rut a little bit later. You can. I mean, it depends. I know guys that were doing like pre-rut hunts like per the schedule, and they're like right in the middle. I mean,
really,
bulls are just hot and heavy. They're just snotting and bugling everywhere. Like they're just going crazy, and they're like, "What in the hell?" Like,
yeah,
this isn't supposed to happen. Like, they take it. They're happy about it. They're like, "All right, this is cool."
Yeah, imagine if I went over there. It'd be after Oregon and all that stuff. So I'd probably go over there in like December.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it might be during some sort of rut over there.
Yeah, this would definitely be prime for mule deer. You'd be pretty solid. And yeah, you come over. I think the mule deer over the counter tag it for out of state is like $350.
That's not bad.
No, compare in-state, it's like $34.
I know it's $350 too, or
Yeah.
no, $300. I think it's $300 for deer.
Yeah, and then elk is $650.
Yeah, that's on par with Idaho. That's not too bad.
So, and then you just pay the $20 a day. You get the whatever tag you want, and then you're solid. That's it.
So if I buy a deer tag, do I have to specify whitetail, or mule deer or whatever?
Usually, it'll say any antlered deer. So you can get coos, whitetail, mule deer, whatever. So any antlered deer. Elk are the ones you can get antlerless or antlered. And here too, if you got a mule deer, if you wanted to, you could shoot a spike if you really wanted to.
Really? Nah.
Yeah.
I could have done that last weekend if I wanted to. I could have.
But yeah, it's pretty easy. So you get your hunting license. So here, the hunting license is just the hunting license. It doesn't come with tags. So I was in Texas before my wife and I lived in Texas for a couple of years, and I loved it. As far as a hunting license, you buy that, you get 5 deer, 3 does, 2 bucks. You had like 2 or 3 turkey tags, if I remember right. Like you had tags galore just with your $60 hunting license. I'm like, oh, this is insane.
That's crazy.
But downside is all of it is private land, so then you'd have to drop $2-3 grand on a lease if you wanted to. And but yeah.
So tell me about your guys's like January opportunities and stuff. What do you guys have for somebody that's maybe right now they're got the blues, September's over, and they still don't, they still want to go on a hunt?
Definitely looking into. That's why I encourage like javelina hunts. Spring javelina, it's February, but I encourage it just because if you didn't get drawn for big, like I didn't get drawn for elk or deer. And I knew I'm going to get an over-the-counter tag, but I really wanted a rifle hunt, and some of the units that I was just checking out. Like I said earlier, I have all my sheds, so I'll go out shed hunting, and there's some areas I just run into guys. I'm like, oh, I want to come back for you so bad. And so I didn't get drawn, and so I'll put in for javelina because not a lot of people like doing it. But really, the way I get rid of my no draw blues is predator hunting. That is my gambit. It's something that it's newer to me, but I love it. I love every little bit of it. My boss is like a guru of predator hunting, and he said you should try it. I was like, okay, I'll try it. And now I got coyote skulls sitting up there, and I'm in love with it. I love it. So
that's really interesting because I see guys over there that coyotes, and you said you had bears too.
Yeah.
Cougars.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have too many of those darn things around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about your coos deer? What time? Because I know seems like guys are hunting those pretty late. And run me through. So if I wanted to put in for next year, does your guys' run? So if I'm putting in for hunts, you guys start doing that on January?
No, it's going to be, I think for fall, it's around February. So usually when stuff happens, it's like in the middle of the season. So you have your fall hunts, and then you apply during fall hunts, is then when you apply for your spring hunts, which is like stuff runs into January, but January, February, if I remember right, I could be wrong, so I don't want people to like take it for word. I don't remember. I honestly have a reminder on my phone that's just like, "Hey, you need to apply for your hunt," so I don't have to remember it.
Interesting. So you guys have multiple draws a year.
Yeah.
That's
so
really unique.
So they do it seasonally. So your big game spring is javelina, turkey, bear, bighorn, or no, not bighorn. Javelina, turkey, bear. I'm missing one. I don't remember. And then fall is when you start getting into your fall elk hunt, and then you also have the application for the draw in June for your fall deer. So deer and elk seasons for your draw are different because the deer or the elk has to be there is sooner than you start elk hunting sooner than you do deer hunting.
Really?
Yeah.
So, because I'm really interested in coos, I always see these guys over there, and they're having a great time. The weather is beautiful for coos deer.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your time of year to target those?
I'd say December, January.
Right now,
yeah, like right now. Just because they're fun, but it's starting to get cooler. So that was the whole point, is they're down south. And it's hot, and that's where I'm at, is the Phoenix area. So
Oh, really?
it's super hot. It's awful during the summers, and they're just moving everywhere. But now it's starting to get into, I think today was 74 out, and that's just our high. But yeah, we're not sitting with snow on the ground or any of the other stuff.
Oh my god! Yeah, today it was thundering really loud. Like, I thought somebody crashed a train because the thunder was so loud today. It was like, holy smokes, and it was soaked through 2 pairs of clothes today out working.
Yeah.
Like, man, but that's regular Oregon weather.
Yeah, and so we got, I think today was high 74. It gets down to maybe mid 40s. So the Coos, that's when they love it. They're always active. That's probably the other thing that a lot of guys get discouraged when they come down. My favorite mule deer hunting is desert mule deer hunting. There's a difference. Like up north on the Strip, they're definitely a lot, in my opinion, easier to find because they're not as active as they are down in the desert, which if you think about deer activity, it makes perfect sense anyways. But I love elusive deer. It's just because it turns into more hunting. It's harder. It's not as easy. Around here, it's the spot and stock mentality. You get up high, glass for whatever when you see it. Problem is they call, I feel like we call all our animals ghosts. But you'll glass a hillside, you'll see a big old buck, and you're like, cool, where's he at? Let me get a reference point. You'll go back, and he's gone. He just disappears, and you have no idea how. And then especially coos deer, because they're smaller, they blend in so well. Their coloring blends in so well with the desert surrounding. Like, it's
really,
yeah.
I'd want to do it with a bow, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting it done with the rifle over there. But it sounds like it'd be easier to get a tag.
It'd be easier to get a tag for a bow, but it's going to be really hard because it's like getting an antelope. They're so smart, and they're so aware of everything. It's insane. You definitely have more coverage down there, but coos deer tend to move a lot more. You really don't run into them. And then them being in the desert, they really don't. I've maybe jumped 2 or 3 this year alone. I've maybe jumped 2 or 3 deer bedded down in the desert.
Really?
And I think it was just because it was too hot for them. So they just like took a break or something. But yeah, even during shed season, I'll find brownies just with fresh blood on them, and I won't even see them. A lot of times I'll just go, holy crap. Like, I won't see signs anywhere because they drop, go, they do whatever they want. And they'll scale mountainsides. They'll hit up top. And then that's the other thing too, is they'll start running ridge lines. Then they'll drop down. They don't usually have a consistent path. Even mule deer being kind of habitual for what they do. They're really not. They're like, hey, this range is my habit. That's it. So you'll go up and glass up top, and they'll be up top with you. Next time they'll be down, or they'll be on the side. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've heard Arizona has really good numbers because there's not really any winter kill over there. It doesn't really, and so I just heard it's kind of a different beast in Arizona. It's a much different experience than say you'd get over here. And it'd be nice to hunt in a t-shirt for once,
Yeah. Oh, you'll get a sweatshirt because it'll be cold. You get like Phoenix natives. If I go out in the morning, I'll still put on a base layer.
Really?
And I'm cold. But up north, when you do the stuff up north, it does get colder. So I don't know if you're familiar, like up in the Strip, Flagstaff area. It's 7,000 foot elevation.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, you get snow. That's where I grew up, was up in Flagstaff. And yeah, you get snow. I think they've already had a couple of snowfalls this year. But it actually does get pretty dang cold up there. Down here, it's just hard and hell.
Hot.
And, like summer, 120 degree summers. Our winters in the 60s.
That's crazy. I can officially say I'm jealous of Arizona guys now. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're sitting here and it's just, it's a cold wet over here too.
Yeah. That's the worst.
Yeah, when I was in Idaho and the wind wasn't blowing, it was like 32 degrees, but if the wind wasn't blowing, you could pretty much be in a t-shirt. It was, and then as soon as that wind blew, you were like, all right, where's my layers? Give me my layers.
Yeah.
Too freaking cold.
Yeah.
But so what else would a guy need to know? You got draws coming year round that you have to put in for. It sounds like you really need to be up on your Arizona knowledge for putting in for draws. What else would a guy need to know?
Know what unit. So a lot of the times especially with archer, depending on the season, they'll combine units. So you get a lot of like 13A and B, for example, like the strip.
Mhm.
You have those depending on your hunt. Sometimes they'll combine it for, and I'm not saying go for the strip. I'm saying that's already going to be difficult on its own. But they'll combine it, and then some units it's just A or it's just B, and then looking at it, you'll go, well, A is the west side, and I've been scouting the east side. So what do I need to look at? Geo scouting or like I forgot, what do you call it? E-scouting, like using like GPS to do that kind of scouting works out pretty well. But yeah, knowing what units are covered, and it's pretty easy when you're applying. If you apply for a hunt, you'll know. But when you get an over the counter tag, know what units are applicable to that tag, what works. So knowing your units and what units are hot. Game and Fish does all right at reporting numbers. But for the most part, if you go onto some of the like hunting forums, Arizona has a lot of big hunting forums. The most popular one is Coos Whitetail is the hunting forum. And you can just ask like what numbers are looking at. Most guys are out hunting and scouting anyways. So you'll just see it. And that's usually how I choose my units is I'm hiking around, shed hunting, doing whatever. And I go, yeah, I saw a lot of activity here. And that's what I go for.
So are the Coos throughout the state, or are they just on the south?
They're down south.
Down south.
Yeah. So down south is very, you won't even in this area, you won't see them. It's going to be closer to Mexico.
Really?
Where you're going to start running into them. Yeah. So pretty close to the border, northern of the border.
Well, it sounds like Arizona's not as, I mean, it's not that expensive. Well, elk are $650. That's pretty expensive. But it sounds like if a guy wanted to go over there, pick a general season unit, he could have a pretty good chance at an elk.
Yeah.
And you'd be out probably close to $1,000. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Just on tags alone, you get your license. Like I said, you get the day-to-day. I think that's what deters a lot of people is they look at the general license itself, and you don't need it. You just day-to-day.
What's the general license cost if you were going to get it?
Shoot, I honestly don't remember. I know for in-state, it's $50 something I think for the license.
That's probably $100 and something for an.
Yeah, it's something that's not bad, and it's not awful. But a lot of people they start adding stuff up, and you think about it. If you get 4 days, that'd be a hefty amount of time to find something, especially when you come into a peak time of the season. You get 4 days of hunting, you'd be solid. That would
really
give you plenty of time. Oh yeah.
That's one thing I always ask is, like when I was going to Idaho, because I'm learning how to hunt that this year.
Yeah.
I was talking to guys. I'm like, how often do you get a shot at a deer? Like once a day, once every 5 days. Mm-hmm. And the guys I was talking to, like, oh yeah, 3 or 4 a day. I'm like, 3 or 4 a day? Jeez. Yeah. I only need one, hopefully, but
yeah.
And I'll tell you, it wasn't 3 or 4 a day when I went over there, but also it was a bad year because of the weather was pretty late. But so
we had last year was pretty dry. It was the driest winter we had ever had.
Really?
Like I said, Flag normally gets snow. They didn't get any. It was just awful. We had a really, really dry winter. This year's kicked up a lot more. We've had a lot more moisture. So my boss, he got his on day one. I'm trying to think of any. Yeah, his deer, his buck. I'm trying to think of anybody that didn't get theirs on day one after picking and choosing. Like he even went, I would shoot him, stalked him, saw a bigger one, went for the bigger one.
Really?
His son, they passed up on day one, I think 2 or 3 bucks that they saw, because one, he was pretty proud. He was like, he managed to have self-control. I was like, I'm going to wait. I don't want that one. He's like, all right, now he's kicking himself. He's like, I should have got that one. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, most people I know, especially this year, they're pretty on top of it one day. But even on hard days, it's not to say that you could come here 4 days and not see a thing.
Get your butt kicked.
Yeah, it just happens. But I would honestly say like 4 or 5 days would give you enough time to enjoy the area, hike a little bit, and then also get an animal.
So for backcountry stuff, how far can a guy expect to get away from the roads and stuff over there? Is there an opportunity for a guy that wants to go backcountry there?
Yeah, a little bit. So off-roading is pretty big in Arizona. So there are Jeep trails everywhere. So you'll find roads. There's a couple that I take that they're they're roads, they're not maintained, but the roads that vehicles have gone on. And I know that nobody's gone in there because I went out there shed hunting and I can still see my tire tracks from the last time I was out there, and that's it. So I know people don't go out them, but you'll see roads everywhere. So it's pretty easy to get out away from people. But it's like anywhere else. You want to get off the beaten path. You'll do a lot of parking and then go up on a hillside and try to figure out where you want to go. The harder it is to get into, the easier time you'll have of finding something, just because that's not where people want to go.
Right.
You know, the Jeep trails will lead them. So
that makes a lot of sense. Over on my last hunt, it seems like 99% of the deer were all at least 2 drainages away from any road. So if you wanted to see a deer, you'd have to go up, and then down, and you might run into one outside of the first drainage, but typically like they were all about half a mile to 2 miles away from the roads. It was like, man. So for that reason alone, I wasn't going to shoot a dink.
It's knowing which, like what roads are actual roads. So they're marked pretty well. But here we have a lot of state trust land. So you'll get ranchers that just have the land on state trust land. So they'll have their own roads, to and from their pens or wherever. And so knowing it, you've gone out and you run into the ranchers and they just kind of talk to you, because you can hunt on state trust land, no big deal. But just knowing what's an actual maintained road is big, not only for legal reasons, for if you happen to shoot across one, but yeah, knowing what's actually maintained, because then you'll see traffic, you'll see whatever. But there's a lot. You can almost pull it up and look anywhere, and you'll see roads all over, just because people are big into the off-roading, overlanding, doing all that fun stuff around here, because they have the seasons and everything for it.
What about, do you guys have Aoudad there at all?
Aoudad, I don't think so. I don't know. I've never. Yeah,
it's not a common thing over
there.
Yeah,
if it is, I've never heard of it.
I'd be interested, because I've heard those are really hard to hunt.
Yeah,
and fun, and they're in those kind of deserty, mountainish terrains and stuff. But we have some here because they were like domesticated.
Yeah,
or hunted on ranches. They escaped some ranches.
Yeah.
But it's so hit and miss, and I've never even seen one in the wild, and they're in very, very, very particular spots, usually next to hunting ranches. So but I don't know. I'm always trying to find that super secret no one wants to talk about.
Oh yeah, maybe I do know about it.
Yeah, maybe I do.
Nobody talk. That's crazy. But yeah, the elusive one people like here is antelope. They love them.
Is the what?
Antelope.
Oh, really? You guys got big ones over there?
Yeah, and I mean they get pretty big, but just where they hang out are like grassland, flatlands.
Yeah,
not necessarily prairies, but I mean you can see them, and of course it's always off season when you see them super close to the road and hanging out. It's just a big old buck, and he's just sitting there looking at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll hang out right in the middle of it, and they're just looking around everywhere. And I mean it's like an 800+ yard shot. You're trying to sneak up on them, and they're watching you the entire time.
Yeah. And are you getting that done with a bow?
Oh, I know a couple of people that have tried it with bow, and I know a couple that were successful. But I mean, it's hard to get within a couple hundred yards from those. It's so hard. It takes a lot of hunting. Most guys I know that do it with a bow, it's a guided hunt, and they're doing it with a guide that's been doing it for years, and he's figured it out. So
probably out of a blind.
Yeah, it's and that's the other thing. Is actually really interesting. A lot of stuff. Most hunters I know here really don't use blinds. We don't use tree stands. We don't use.
It's probably too freaking hot.
Well, it's too hot, or because of public land, our rules, you can't have it up for more than, I think it was like 32 hours or something like that.
Oh, really?
So you can't set it up pre-season. So tree stands or whatever, you can't set it up and have it sit there. So you got like 2 days basically to have it up, and then you have to take it down. So it's kind of a pain. You go set it up, and now you're introducing this foreign thing, and now like animals are like, what the hell is that thing?
Yeah, and, that's really cool.
So you really can't do anything as far as that for an advantage. So
yeah, here in Oregon, guys are always putting blinds out early and getting in fights with each other on antelope hunts in certain units. It's like, man, I don't even want to deal with that. Or you'll have multiple blinds up on one water hole.
Yeah,
it's just a mess.
The only time I've heard of blinds being used is it's all natural blinds. Well, they'll bring brush that's laying down. They'll create like a natural blind that they know, but that's about it. It's most people don't. The only time I ever have used a blind was in Texas, and that was private land, and it had a space heater and and a comfortable chair. It was awful. It wasn't hunting, but I mean, I wasn't going to complain. I still got to harvest something. But.
I actually might be going to Texas next December.
Nice.
I got invited with a buddy to go down there on some of his properties, ranch or something, and they donate pretty much most of the meat, if not all of it, to this orphanage over there and stuff.
That's cool.
It'll be really cool, yeah. Because I mean, I don't know. I'd like to bring some of the meat back, obviously, because I need the meat, but I don't want to take it from a starving orphan.
Like, hey, I want this. I know you're those kids, but I want it.
Right. Well, when we went to Namibia this year, and I told the guy, I'm like, it's kind of important to me that I eat whatever I kill, and I know what you guys need to do is you need to give it to bring it to market, give some of it to the employees. I understand that, but can I just have like a little bite of whatever it is? So we had wild game every night, and whatever we didn't eat went to market and toys and stuff, and it was pretty cool. And it could have very well not even been the animal I shot. I can't. But
it's a mental thing. Yeah,
it's a mental thing. I told him I just don't feel good about not eating something I kill. I don't know. It's just the way I was raised. All of us, pretty much like that. But so I really appreciate you coming on here. You really got me interested in more. I was already interested in hunting Arizona, but now it's like, okay, I could definitely do something down there.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. It's a lot of fun. There's archery. It's becoming more popular, but if you're a bow hunter, Arizona is a great place for it, because right now, especially, you have a good chance of getting something. Even in the draw system, you have a good chance of getting good units. It's just not as popular yet. It's getting there because most people are starting to see the trend that bow hunters are getting drawn every year. And like, okay, I need a chainsaw. I even started doing it. I wasn't raised a bow hunter. I dabbled with it when I was younger, but even more so now. I was kind of like, man, I need to start bow hunting more.
Do you got one yet? A bow?
I have an old high country that my father-in-law gave me. So before my wife's family, I've known them for years. So before he was my father-in-law, he gave it to me when I was younger and said, hey, I'm getting a new Matthews, you can have this. And I'm like, cool. I don't know what this is. And let me try it. So I've tried it, and now it's just wasn't working. And before I justify getting a new one, wife said I had to go out bow hunting a couple times. So that's fair. So
that's fair. At least you didn't say you have to kill something before you.
No, she's like, you need to go out a couple times with a hunt, and then I'll let you start looking at one. But I have my father-in-law now is Matthews is what I'm going to use for the January hunt. It's his switchback.
Nice. That's a great bow.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. And he's like, I don't really use it. I'm like, well, I'll just keep it here for a little bit. And that's when we're going out shooting, trying to decide what I want to get. But other than that, it's something I'm slowly getting into. I love the idea of it. But it's fun. I don't know.
It's addicting, man.
Oh, I mean, I'm just so hooked on predator hunting now, but now I want to combine the two. I'm like, I want to go predator hunting with a bow. So
that's what I did this year.
Yeah. I
got my ass kicked.
That's why I want to do it. I really want to do it just because it sounds fun. I already upped it by using a shotgun, and that's even more fun.
Yeah.
And then now I've just been thinking about it so much lately. I'm like, I want to do
Oregon's your state then.
Oh man.
Because it's $16 for a bear tag on top of your license, and you pay the same price we do for bears. We got too many of them. So $16 for a bear. You can, if you come in the right time of the year, I think you even an out-of-stater can still kill two. And my buddy went, he goes out and takes people quite a bit. I had him on the show, Derek, and I think he went out 3 times with a tag in his pocket, and each time he went out, he came back with a bear. So
easily.
It's just crazy. I mean, I had a horrible year this year, but last year I think it was like 27 bears or something like that. This year I only saw like 8. Wow. But it's just my areas are starting to get a little more popular, so I started having to go out and venture and find new areas. But
That's the worst.
I mean, last year I never saw one person in my spots, and then this year it was like every time I was like, "Wow, the word got out." Like somebody must have saw something here. Or, I don't know. Somebody must have told somebody something because it's not a very good spot anymore. I'll tell you that. But all right, man. Well, is there anything else? If people want to get a hold of you, what's your email, or do you want to send them to the website for your Arizona training stuff? Or
Yeah. So if you want on the medical side or hunting, we actually just did a I guess you could say private training up in South Dakota. For a group of guys for what their job. They happen to be out and about, but they're a bunch of hunters. It was like 20 some odd guys. But we did a combination of medical and shooting stuff. So, I mean, we cover everything. Outdoors is what we do. All of us are active in outdoors, whether it's hunting or just being out and doing it. So it's pretty easy. We always tell people it's easy to host. If you have a group of people that are interested, super easy to host. If you decide to host, like you, for example, if you had a group of some odd people, you would get the class tuition for free kind of deal. So the host gets it for free. And we travel all over, but if anybody has questions about medical stuff, or where to get it, or what to look for or whatever, if you have a kit, honestly, I'll throw this out for any of the listeners. If you have a kit that you're curious if it's good, bad, and different, want to know more about it, shoot me an email. I don't care. I'll answer it. I talk and teach for a living. This stuff, I will do it all day, every day. So my personal email, we'll just do that, is david@trainingaz.com. So I gave the info one earlier. They both go to me, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. But david@trainingaz.com. And our website is trainingaz.com or Independence Training, however you want to look it up.
Yeah. Well, and you also do the firearm training as well.
Yeah, we do everything from Arizona concealed carry stuff, so basic handgun, to long-range precision rifle stuff. And then medical, we do everything from very beginner to invasive trauma stuff, where I'm teaching you how to start IVs and crikes and everything like that. So,
man, well, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And this is something that, this is a kick in the butt for me, because I carry such a crappy med kit, like I said earlier, and I'm just gonna have to go invest in one. So if I'll put a link up that leads to your guys' website, and if you want to message me somewhere that you suggest buying them from, or a good website, I'll put that in the links in the descriptions below.
Absolutely.
And we'll just try and get people some great ideas for med kits and some places like you where they can go to get more information, because it is something that, it's not exciting, it's not fun to talk about really, but it could save your life. I mean, it really could.
That's the problem, is people don't look at it too often, because it's not the cool, sexy stuff. Like I show you some high speed footage of us shooting like completely kitted out and just going crazy with our carbines. Like, yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah.
And that's not what people want to learn about. It's the importance of it is crazy. Honestly, monthly, I get stuff. We get stuff from students of how they've used the medical training that we've taught them. The 11 years our company's been in business, I think we've had 3 situations where they had to use self-defense.
Really?
So versus the medical, which is monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, whatever. I get messages, videos, pictures of people saying, I use this medical stuff. And then it kind of tells you what's important, but people spend more time on the self-defense shooting side than they do medicine, even though medicine gets used way more often.
I'll tell you, the stuff that I'm interested in is the blood clotting bandages.
Yeah.
The stitch, skin. I don't know about the skin stapler, but maybe the zip stitches. But and stuff like that. And I've been the guy that, super glue, that seems to work.
Super glue works.
But I do need to up my game there. So, but
we do. So we not only teach, we have some commercial made kits. We do sell some of the stuff. So just whoever, if you guys want information or products or whatever, just let us know.
So, all right, Dave. Well, I really appreciate your time, man. And we'll probably have you back on again and maybe talk about long range and self-defense pistols and stuff like that. That'd be fun.
Oh, yeah. We'll get something squared away.
So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you. I'll see you on the next one.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right, that's this week's episode of the podcast. I appreciate everybody listening to the show. If you want to further support the show monetarily, go to www.onpointpodcast.com. That's where you can go buy On Point Podcast gear, merchandise, buy a hat. I spent a lot of time designing the colors, the mesh that goes with the front of the hats, the patch, all this stuff. Spent a lot of time putting design into these hats, and I think what came out of it is a really slick looking hat. Have different sizes for folks with different size heads. If you need a shallower dome cap, buy the 115s. If you have a regular head and you just like the Richardson 112s, buy the 112s. But the 115s are for smaller heads like myself or shallower domes. Those will be a good hat. So I really got stuff for everybody on there. I probably have too many different selections because now it's hard to choose. But the camo ones just sold out today. I do have a full selection of the Cryptex, and then tons of other different color combos. So if you want to go support the podcast, go do that, and be super appreciative of anybody that does that. If you want to support it in a different way, 5-star reviews on iTunes, or you can go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, watch the videos, and that is the main revenue that supports the podcast. So pretty much almost all the YouTube money gets poured back into the podcast to help it grow. That helps buy more shirts, hats, new recording equipment. Constantly always trying to grow the podcast there. So as always, guys, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.